Cate Osborn was sitting on her couch, heart racing and tears blurring the pages of Shakespeare lines she had spent her entire adult life mastering. But suddenly, the words were just ink on paper, refusing to take root in her brain. You have to understand, this wasn't just a bad day. This was a woman with 2 master's degrees in the bard's work, a professional actor who lived for the stage, and yet she was convinced she had early onset dementia because she couldn't remember a single phrase. She was drowning in a sea of undone laundry, unanswered texts, and a mounting pile of "I'll do it later" chores that felt like they were literally closing in on her. It took a friend looking her in the eyes and saying the words that would change everything. "I don't know if you're going crazy, but I do think you have ADHD." That moment of terrifying clarity is the heartbeat of the book she eventually co-wrote with Erik Gude, a former artisan pizza chef who found himself in the same boat when the world shut down in 2020. Together, they've crafted something they call a field guide. But honestly, it's more like a survival manual for anyone who's ever been told they were too much, too lazy, or just needed to apply themselves more. The reality of living with an ADHD brain is like having a state-of-the-art internet browser where you have about 180 tabs open at any given time. Some of those tabs are playing music you can't turn off, others are looping your most embarrassing moments from the 3rd grade, and somewhere in there is the actual tab you need for work, but you have no idea where it's hidden. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder that messes with your brain's executive functions, the conductor of your mental orchestra. In a neurotypical brain, the conductor keeps everyone in sync. In an ADHD brain, the conductor is often distracted by a shiny object or has wandered off stage entirely, leaving the woodwinds and the brass to fight over who goes next. This isn't a moral failure, and it isn't because you don't care. Your brain is literally wired differently, struggling to regulate behavior, plan tasks, or control those impulsive urges to buy a $300 espresso machine at 2 in the morning. One of the most relatable and painful parts of this journey is what Cate and Erik call the ADHD tax. It's the literal money you lose because you forgot to cancel a subscription, the late fees on bills you meant to pay, and the cost of all that produce rotting in the bottom drawer of your fridge because you forgot it existed the second you closed the door. It's the emotional tax, too. The exhaustion of using every ounce of your energy just to take a shower, only to find yourself paralyzed when you finally sit down at your desk. Your brain is a nail-seeking hammer, and if there aren't any actual problems to solve, it will happily invent a few, spiraling into a catastrophe train, where a slightly short text from your boss means you're definitely getting fired and will end up living in a cardboard box. Then there's the chaos of the doom pile. You know the ones, those stacks of miscellaneous items that you move from the chair to the bed and back again because you don't know where they belong. Erik and Cate suggest a genius pivot here. Categorize your stuff into useful and sentimental. Useful things have a job, like your coffee mugs, but sentimental things are those items we keep just because we love them, like a broken gramophone. They suggest creating a museum for those sentimental items so they don't get mixed up with the functional stuff and make your daily life impossible to navigate. And if you can't find something, grab a flashlight. It changes the shadows and ons your focus, breaking you out of that "I can't find it" panic. They even give you full permission to use paper plates and plastic cutlery if the wall of awful, known as the kitchen sink, is preventing you from eating a decent meal. Being nice to the sea turtles is great, but your mental health is a priority too. Relationships with ADHD are their own kind of drama, largely thanks to something called Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria, or RSD. It's that physical, gut-wrenching pain you feel when you think someone is mad at you, even if they just looked at their watch during your story. It leads to what Cate calls Mrs. Maiseling, where you turn every conversation into a stand-up routine because you feel like the only way people will like you is if you're constantly on and entertaining. You're so busy waiting for your turn to say something witty that you forget to actually listen. And then you're hit with a wave of shame later when you realize you made the whole night about you. Supporting a loved one with ADHD isn't about parenting them or doing all the work. It's about finding a balance where both people feel seen, and that often starts with a lot of grace and a few I statements to avoid sounding like you're accusing them of being a mess. Work life with ADHD often feels like trying to paddle a canoe with pool noodles. You can see where you want to go, but the effort required to get there is monumental. The authors suggest leaning into body doubling or tag teaming tasks. If you do 5 minutes of dishes and your partner does 5 minutes, you can gamify the boring stuff until it's actually done. For the office, they recommend the burner notebook method, carrying a cheap notepad to scribble down everything the second you hear it, because, let's be honest, you aren't going to remember that meeting time once you hang up the phone. Break your big deadlines into tiny, manageable bites and address your sensory environment. That buzzing light bulb might be the reason you haven't been able to focus for 3 hours. One of the most poignant sections of the book deals with the mourning period that often follows a late-in-life diagnosis. When you finally realize that you aren't lazy or broken, there's a massive relief. But it's followed by a deep grief for the younger version of yourself who was yelled at for a messy room or lost friendships because you never paid attention. This is especially true for women, whose symptoms are often overlooked until menopause hits. The hormonal shifts of perimenopause can make previously manageable ADHD symptoms feel like early onset dementia all over again, which is why so many women are finally getting diagnosed in their 50s and 60s. Whether you're 30 or 87, the current record for a diagnosis they know of, it's never too late to understand your brain and stop calling yourself a fuck up. The book wraps up with a powerful reminder that while ADHD is a debilitating chronic condition that infiltrates every part of your existence, you aren't alone in the madness. There are systems, structures, and a whole community of people who also have 18 tabs open and a Macarena loop playing in the back of their minds. It's about building a world that fits your brain, rather than exhausting yourself trying to fit into a world that wasn't built for you. You can have a happy, successful, and slightly chaotic life by just being different instead of harder. If you could go back and tell your younger, undiagnosed self one thing about your brain, what would it be? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you found this summary helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, leave a comment with your favorite ADHD tax story, and subscribe for more deep dives into the books that actually changed lives. See you in the next one.